Um, my name is Joe Gonzalez, and I've been a teacher for 11 years. Um, I've taught grades 5 and 6 for the past 11 years. Most recently, the grade 6 for the past 4, going into 5 years now. Um, we I have a wife, and we have married for 10 years, and we have two boys. I have a 9-year old and a 7-year old boy, and we live in what is called our capital city of Charleston, West Virginia, and it's a beautiful mountain state. So, but I'm excited to meet you all and hear your questions and talk to you guys.
Okay, thank
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
My name is Sanjana. I am studying 9th grade in Z.P.H.S Ilavaram. I am so excited to interact with you. Can I ask one question?
Yes.
What do you believe is the most rewarding part of teaching?
The most important part of teaching to me is the relationship between the teachers and the student. If you don't form a good relationship between the teacher and the student, the students aren't going to learn very well. So that's, to me, is the most important, is establishing a very solid connection with the student and teacher.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
My name is Asha Rani. I am studying 9th grade at Z.P.H.S Ilavaram. This is
Hello.
a golden opportunity. Here my question is, what is your process for ensuring students comprehend your lessons?
So my process for ensuring that students comprehend the lesson start out with small quizzes, or what we call an exit slip. So like, you're probably about to get out of school, and what I would do is hand a student a piece of paper with maybe 3 questions on it, and have them write an answer to it, and then give it to me as they leave the class. And as I look through that exit slip, I can see who understood it and who did not understand it, or did they not understand it at all. And then I have to kind of go back to the drawing board and go from there. So, but it's called an exit slip, is what I use, is one of the really powerful. It's quick, it's easy, it gives you a good idea of who knows what.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
My name is Bushra. I am a 9th grade student. I am from Z.P.H.S Ilavaram. I am extremely happy today to interact with you. I would like to ask a question.
Mhm.
How do you evaluate the progress of students?
That's more of a visual observation. Just usually walking around the classroom, and sometimes it's a verbal, because you can hear who is focused and who is not. Um, uh, I stand at the door every day and greet my students, and just by doing that, and the student walking by me, I can usually get an idea of if everything's okay, or maybe something's not wrong, or maybe something just happened and they're not really feeling it, or something like that. So sometimes that's how I establish the focus, and then when I get in the classroom, I can go from there and figure out who is um, who's really on it today, and then maybe who's not on it today.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
This is Nandini. I am an grader from Z.P.H School Ilavaram. I am so glad to interact with you. Here my question is, could you please tell us something about your state, West Virginia?
Sure, I would love to. Our state is called, it's a very small state. but it is called the Mountain State. So we are surrounded by, or we are in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains. And there's actually a mountain range that runs from the state of Maine all the way down to the state of Georgia. And we are in kind of in the heart of that. So we don't really have a lot of flat land here. We have a lot of hills and valleys and mountains in our area.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
I'm Roshni, a ninth grader from Z.P.H.S Ilavaram. I would like to ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
What is your strategy to teach mathematics who are not good at math?
Philosophy for teaching struggling learners math.
Yes.
That's a very tough. That's a very tough question. A lot of it is just repetition, but I think what probably happens in my country is a lot of well, I'm not good at math, so you're not going to be good at math. So when I teach students who may or may not be very good at math, they have a preconceived notion of that I'm not good at math. I don't like math. So how do I teach that? I just try to find real world and practical examples of using it. For example, a lot of students always say, I'm never going to need math. And then I try to pull out real world examples of holding a job and paying bills and paying rent or buying a house or a car and using that example of math rather than just can they solve this problem. So that would be my best answer.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So you are enjoying the summer holidays, am I right?
Yes, we are on summer holiday. Yes.
Okay, and so when will you back to school?
August 14th is when I have to show up. So that's about middle to end of August is when kids go back to school.
Okay, so as a teacher, you have to show up and much in earlier than the students. So what is your role before your students come back to school, and would you like to do any kind of activities at school, like attending the orientation classes or something like that?
Yes, we have about a week before the students get there that we show up and we have to do staff trainings. You set up your classroom and get your supplies and materials ready for that first day. And so that's pretty much what we do. You see the people that you haven't seen from the last year, and then there's some new people that maybe came to your building, so you get to know them. And but basically, it's just getting everything ready, and then if there's any new programs or any new things that our administrator has for us with that we need to work on, that's what we do.
Okay, my students, most of these kids come from different parts of this region. Some students come on foot, some students come by three-wheeled vehicle called auto. Some students come by their own bikes. So how about there? How do the students in your region come to school? I suppose that they come by their cars or maybe some other vehicles. Would you mind telling us something about it?
Yes, every school is different based on usually a proximity as to where it is in the city, in the town. I know that a majority of our kids ride buses, and then another majority get in cars, and then there's a very small population that actually walk to school because they're close enough. I think it's if you're within 1 mile of the school that you can walk to school. But yeah, we have those three modes of transportation.
Mhm. So these kids, my students, mostly they don't know what exactly the part-time job is. Until they get the job after completion of their education, they earn the money. But most of my kids, they don't have any idea to make money during their school period, school age. So in America, it's a different story. Most of your students, they work in different part-time jobs and they make their money, they earn their own money and to meet their day-to-day expenses. Could you please tell my students what kind of part-time jobs do your students do during their school timings or outside the school timings? I mean.
Most of the kids that I teach are 11, 12-year-olds. Um, and in the United States, not we have not many kids can work that young. So probably would be more around the 15, 16-year-old is where they would get a part-time job. Most likely everyone talks about is like a McDonald's or a Taco Bell or like a fast food restaurant is a very common place for young people to start working for what we call a part-time job. But yeah, in my experience, that's mostly what I've heard. There might be long time ago when I was a kid, you could deliver newspapers, but people don't deliver newspapers anymore.
So what do these guys, these kids do with that part-time job money? Would they like to give the money to their parents or they spend on their education?
The kids that are working are probably paying for saving up for maybe a college or a junior college. Maybe they're saving up for an automobile or something that a hobby of theirs. Um, a lot of the kids I teach have parents that probably provide for them. Maybe the kids that are working at a young age have to provide for their parents. So it's a wide variety. But mostly it's a lot of them work to put money to put gas in their automobile or maybe some food on the table kind of thing is what a majority of them are working for.
Okay, and if I ask one of my students what age you leave your home, they say that maybe at the age of 25 or 28 or maybe at the age of 30. Until they get married, they don't leave their home because this is a different culture and different tradition here in India. So whether it is a girl or a boy, I think they leave their home, they leave their parents only after marriage. But in America, it's a different story. So once they attain the age of 18 or maybe 19 and they get the freedom, they feel that they got the freedom and they leave their home just like a bird. So could you please tell us something about that?
Yes, you're exactly correct. In the United States, when you turn 18 years old, you are considered what we refer to as an adult, that you can make decisions on your own. Um, you can join the military. You can purchase tobacco and purchase firearms. That gives you right. You can vote. So when you do that at 18, you typically graduate high school, or if you're about that point, and then it's your choice. You are an adult. If you wanted to go off to college, move out on your own, whatever you need to do. However, being very young, like 18, it would be hard to find places to rent for such a young person because the landlord would not be very willing to rent to a very young kid who's going to probably maybe not want to pay the money all the time kind of thing. So, but typically, like you said, yes. Most Americans at around age 18 leave the house to go to college, get a job, or do something, and then search for their mate or whatever, and then go from there.
So I also heard that yes, I have been to USA in 2022 as a part of my 45 days program. I visited one of the middle schools. So where I was surprised to see a home science class where students took the home science. Maybe they have the kitchen in their room, and the students were highly involved in making some kind of recipes. So that's how they train themselves in cookery at the age of school, at the school age itself, they are learning the cookery. And but most of my kids, if I ask them, one of my boys, if, do you know how to make a dal? Do you know how to make a curry like a brinjal? And they simply say that we can't, we don't, because we are not supposed. We are not supposed to do that. The girls are supposed to do it. They simply say that this is not our job. But this is something that is needed for each and everyone, irrespective of the gender. Everybody has to learn how to make their own curry, and they should know how to make their own food. And this is something that I would like to tell my students, that you have to draw the inspiration from the students that are studying in USA. Could you please tell me something about how useful these cookery classes, that means home science classes, to the students at the school age?
Yes, well, you were lucky to see a rare example of that. A lot of those schools don't exist in the United States anymore. The lawmakers and policymakers have done away with that because of the funding and the cost. But you're referring to what we call a home economics, and I think it's more, the idea is just to teach kids a basic skill. That's it. That's all it is. It's not to identify roles. And I understand what you're saying, and I'm not. I think a long time ago in our country, we had a very similar philosophy where the women would stay home and take care of kids and do that, and the men went and worked, and that has drastically changed currently. So, but the idea is behind the home ec was to teach them how to sew, sew patches, sew clothes together, make a basic meal, which was, whatever, any meal you can think of, but and also maybe how to fix things around your house that break, that are common areas, things. So that's what would be. I think they need to bring that back, because we have a lot of kids who rely on the device I'm using right now to do everything, and so it's a lot of a counter back and forth between the two things.
So another interesting fact that I have noticed during my 45 days tour in the USA, in one of the classes where a teacher gave a robo baby to the students. The students, they took the robo baby to their home and they learned the skills of looking after a baby. That too at the age of, I think 13, 14 and 15. But my kids, they learned how to look after the baby at the age of 30 or something around. And so this is also a very useful, I think, class for the students, especially at that age.
That falls under the home ec class, and we have, unfortunately, I don't know statistics off the top of my head, but a very high or higher teenage pregnancy rate in the United States.
Mhm.
So I think some of these classes are designed to educate a young female as what would life be like if you had a small child with you. And they give them a fake baby, and you have to feed them and change them and take care of them and all kind of stuff like that. So that it may look different from the outside, but a lot of times that's what it's designed to make awareness, but it's also designed to identify somewhat of a problem or an issue.
Yeah.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am so glad today to ask you a question. Here my question is, how do you teach science effectively in high schools?
I teach science actually in middle school, but how do I teach effectively? I think it's the same philosophy I use with my math question is I use hands-on approach to it, as well as practical applications, because in my country, I think people think that if you're a scientist, you're somebody that works in a lab and wears a coat, and that's all you do all day long. There are multiple variations of what a scientist is. So when kids are learning science, I'm trying to give them a broader picture of it's not just one person who works in a lab, and that's what a scientist is. So I try to do as many real world applications as I can to help them understand science better. Good morning.
So wanted to ask you a question. This is Joshna,
Mhm.
an 8th grade student. I would like to ask you a question. My question is what pedagogical skills do you follow while teaching science?
Sorry about that. um, the biggest and the easiest pedagogical philosophy that I follow is probably how I met your teacher was through what I called it's teach better. And the goal that I did is just be better than you were yesterday. So if you maybe didn't do so well on a quiz or a test, or you had a rough day yesterday, do better than you were yesterday. And just so do better. And that's all I ask students is to do the best that you can do every single day. And some days are not going to be the best. So you just have to keep pushing through and just do the best as you can.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir. Nice to
Good morning.
Nice to meet you. This is Jessica, an 8th grade student. I would like to ask you a question. Here, my question is, how do you adapt to different students' learning styles?
How do I adapt to different learning styles? That's something I learn new every year. A lot of students, you have basically students that are auditory, visual, or hands-on learning, or somewhat of all three of those. So I have to do a balance, a mixture of lessons that have some sort of facet of that. So some lessons might be auditory, some lessons might be hands-on, and some lessons might be visual. And I have to use all three of those to try to touch all the learners in my classroom so that they understand at their level.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Hi, sir. My name is Ritika. I am 8th grade student. Hi, sir. My name is Ritika. I am 8th grade student from Z.P.H.S Ilavaram. Here, my question is, how do you integrate technology in teaching science?
How do I integrate technology? Our district or our schools give students an iPad, and we use a program called Schoology to um, uh, put work up or submit work or things like that as well. But through many apps and websites and things like that, we YouTube and anything you can think of that we can get that is free and it's educational, I will utilize in the classroom for students to learn. But the easiest way to answer your question is right now, technology integrated is through an iPad.
Thank you. Hi, sir. My name is Soumyasri, an 8th grade student from Z.P.H.S Ilavaram. Here, my question is, how do you intend to contact science lessons to the actual world?
Basically, how do I do it to apply to the real world is through experiments and or just walking outside and looking at nature because you know a piece of metal rusting is science happening right in front of you, or just walking outside and seeing the trees and leaves changing color is science happening in front of you. So that's how I try to integrate um, uh, that's how I try to integrate that in my classroom. I think the question previously was asking about that if that what is science, and I told her, I said I think that a lot of people in my country think that if you're a scientist you wear a white lab coat and you stay in a room all day and that's all you do. So but trying to expose them and break down that mindset that that's all a person who is a quote scientist does.
So I would like to request you to give a message to my students.
My final message would be, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to connect with you around the world. This is an amazing experience, getting to learn about your culture, and you get to learn about my culture. That's what makes our world such a fantastic place, is getting to learn the differences between everybody. I would pay attention to your teacher in front of you. He's an excellent man, and he's does a lot of hard work for you guys. So I hope that you would just follow him and listen to him and trust his guidance. And then as students, just enjoy your time as you are a young child, and enjoy and learn and soak up as much knowledge as you can as before you move on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your wonderful message. And now my students would like to come forward to sing our national anthem. So please.
भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल वंग विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जाहे तव शुभ आशीष माहे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगल जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you so much, Joy, and we will see you soon with your students. Have a great day.